Welcome to Miracle Mondays with Rae Lashea. I'm your host, Rae Lashea, and I am grateful and excited to be here today and welcome our guest, Scorpio 011, Mr. Carlos Pearce, who is the VP of Operations for a nonprofit organization. So if you would please help me welcome him, Mr. Carlos Pearce. Hi, Carlos.
Hey Rachel, how are you?
Oh, it's so good to see you.
Same here.
Oh, you look fantastic.
Thank you. You do as well.
Thank you. So I'm so grateful that you were able to join me today. I know you're busy, so if we could get started, please tell the audience who you are and what you do.
All right. So my name is Carlos Pearce. I am the Vice President of Operations for a small non-for-profit agency in Southeast Queens. We're worth about $6.6 million. We are probably one of the few, if not one of the very only agencies that's led by an executive team and middle management comprised of predominantly people of color. We're about a workforce of about 95 employees, and about 98% of them are of color as well. So that's something that we pride ourselves in as well. One of the things that we also do is that we give back, and we give back because we were established in 1974 as a group home, and we have evolved since 1974. So what we do now is basically we work with ACS and the juvenile justice system to kind of help some of our youth, which we have two locations where we take our youth, and we have a program with ACS, which is the Administration for Children's Services, also known to other people as CPS. And what they do is basically put those youth in our facilities, and they have a docket, which is almost like a sentence, so to speak. And we help them, which is a close to home program. And that program is basically help the kids get back to their families instead of going to upstate or even get locked up in the system. And we provide different services for this youth. And as youth, we provide these services that we want them to be able to go back to their families in a matter of as quickly as possible. So, for example, we take the youth and say, okay, we'll just help you guys go into schools, back into the community, so they can actually be able to be back with their families as soon as possible. We even have visitations for them to start visiting their families, so that they can go ahead and connect with them. So the whole process it takes a village to raise one. So therefore, what happens is that we have a team, from a clinical team, a program team, that basically supports the family to get what they need at this time. So, for example, we had a youth at one point who his family did not want him at all. So we have a unification specialist, and he was able to get this family from Maryland, a cousin, to be able to accept him and work with that family to get him back into his family. So basically, we're here to give people in that second opportunity a chance. We changed our name probably about 3-4 years ago. We used to be known as Martin de Porres Group Homes. But if you don't know about Martin de Porres is basically is a friar, patron saint, who is notorious for working in Peru with those who were, he was known for his kindness, nursing the sick, his obedience, and charity. So we kind of took that. But he's also known for working with mixed races, housekeepers, barbers, and public health workers. He's the patron saint of those. So we adopted that name back in 1974. So it just works out perfectly because we are giving back to the community and also helping the families. In addition to that, we have changed our name from group homes to basically youth and family services, because we have expanded not only from boys. We only work right now with boys from ages 13 to 21. So we never expanded to the family because it makes no sense for us to help the young men, send them back to the same community and same environment that basically got them here. So what kind of support are we providing? So therefore, we have changed our model, and now we help the family. So therefore, we help the youth, and we help the family support them as well. We have a great counseling team that helps with the family to overcome some of the circumstances, some of the adversities they face, and be able to work through those and get them back together. So yeah, that's a mouthful.
Oh, so you're just over there like twiddling your thumbs and
Well, listen, I don't do it all myself. I mean, I just kind of sit here and just kind of, push papers around now. But I have a great team here that does this. This is hard work. And this is a 24/7 365 days out of the week, when, Thanksgiving is coming and Christmas is coming and everybody works here around the clock, so we can't say we take a break and go home at 5 o'clock. These kids are here 24/7 and we have done this, for the last 44 plus years.
That's amazing. So, and I know how hard that work is. I used to be a special education teacher and I was also a foster parent. And so it's so difficult to see these families lose children because they're not supported. And then the government turn around and pay other families to take care of these families instead of just supporting, the home family with a little assistance. They'll say, oh, there was no food in the fridge, so we need to take this child and give it to another family and then give that family money for food.
Exactly.
It's such a backward system and it's heartbreaking. So the fact that your organization recognizes that, deals with male youth, because there's so many programs out there for women and young ladies, not many for the men of color, who are disproportionately being attacked and navigated through the negative parts of the system, and then saying, okay, well, if the parents can't do it, where else in the family can we get them reunified? So that's huge.
Definitely is. Let me tell you that there was a situation, not a situation, but we had a young man, probably about, I would say, late August, where he was in the system. He was with us for about 2.5 years. And let me tell you, the day that this young man was able to go to his family, it was exciting. He was a very difficult child, in a sense of just trying with him. He's a 17 to 18-year-old boys, and 18 to 17-year-old boys, hard headed. I could speak because I have a few, not a few, but just one. I could, and they're hard headed, and they just want to prove. And you go back and you think about, like, listen, you don't know how this is going to change your life, and seeing this young man be able to actually, go home and finally start, living his life and doing what he can for himself. It was one of those bittersweet moments, because you wanted him to stay because you got so used to him, but at the same time, like, you have to go out there and expand your wings. It's kind of like, as a parent, I am a parent, and just kind of seeing your child grow, it's like you want that for them.
Right.
After that couple of weeks, he had some difficulties with the parents, so we were able to then transition him out when he turned 18 into basically independent living. And at that point, it's kind of like, here, we set you up with something else. So we just don't give up, and then once they leave, it's kind of like doors are always open. I have to say that my supervisor is I've learned a lot from him, in a sense of just giving back. I'm a giving person, but he has taken it to a whole new level. Just kind of like, listen, we make it happen to make sure these kids are taken care of, because the system is designed for us to fail, and therefore for us to help them succeed in whatever we can. And sometimes you sit there and be like, why are we doing this? And we just have to remind yourself, and when that success day came, this is what we get paid for. This is what we do to help these young men, be out there and do the best that they can. Right now, we're working on 2 right now, and COVID didn't help. I'm going to be honest, COVID did not help at all, but we were able to push through, and here we are still.
So what exactly, for those people who don't know, is a nonprofit organization?
So basically, a nonprofit organization, we get all our complete funding from the city of New York. Basically, our governing body is ACS, which is Administration for Children's Services. They supply for us the funding. Like I said earlier, it's about 6.6 million in total with everything. And basically, we have to take care of these youth from the time that they get sent to us to the time that they're released from their time. A nonprofit basically is, we're not like a Microsoft or a Amazon who's making profit. We have to show at the end of the year a zero balance or negative balance, which means that we have to spend every single dollar into the youth, into the resources for the youth, and we do the best that we can to draw that all the way to the negative, which is hard at times, because when you go for a loan and you say, well, you guys are running a negative deficit, who wants to invest in a negative deficit?
Right.
You really have to invest and to look into the agency. So what exactly do you guys do? And many people will open the doors to you, because the first thing is that you have a negative balance. We're not going to take a chance with you. But we've had some partners who be able to help us along the way, and we were able to make that happen. So yes, that's what I said non-for-profit does. You can look up our information online as well. So it's not like we can hide it either, because we have to show that as well.
So 2 questions. Someone who is in college or, getting ready to decide on a career, and they say, you know what, I want to give back. I want to be in a nonprofit organization. What direction should they go? And then also someone who's graduating college and says, oh, I need to find a job. let me just join this, let me apply to this nonprofit, what kind of people you say, listen now, you have to have certain personality characteristics that you know, it's not just a regular thing that anyone can apply to. Can you speak to both of those questions?
Yes. So from my experience, I have worked in a for-profit, in the state, in the city, and also other nonprofits. If you want to make money, nonprofit is not really the world to go, because basically you here to kind of, there's usually a service component to it for most of us, right? Most service not-for-profits. There's long days, long hours, and resources are limited. So you have to make the best. You got to stretch that dollar as much as you possibly can. And that's one thing that in here we get creative at times. Like, well, how can we stretch this? Or how can we do that? And you gotta come with a mindset of being creative. If you think you're gonna walk into, like, let's say for example, a Google, everything's gonna be handed to you, this is not for it. This is a place where you're giving back. Really, this is a service environment and service field, because you're giving back to everybody who is underserved. And there's no way to make money in this, but you can definitely help. I mean, it's kind of like taking in your heart and be like, you know what, I did something good today. Seeing that young man go back to his family was, you know what, it was worth everything. Because you saved a life. My supervisor goes, what do you do? And his best response is, I save lives. You're like, I'm not a doctor, I don't go in surgery, but you know what? If I got a kid off the street and be able to change his life a little bit, I may have saved somebody else from, he may be a statistic down the line. So, just keeping that mindset and staying focused definitely helps. I mean, there's some days that are rough. I'm not going to tell you that every day is a walk in the park, but we try our best. These are young lives that you want to help, you want to mold and help them see. And especially for a young man, they're either in jail or dead. You don't want to see them for that. So.
And do you only serve Queens or tri-state area?
Mainly the New York City area. We get all our kids, like I said, from ACS, and that includes the 5 boroughs at this time. Yes. Are we going to expand in the future? Who knows?
So, but you guys, I mean, it sounds like, I know you started in 74. Do you know how many people were working when they first opened up?
In 1974, I know there was 1 house. Now we're up to 3. I want to say a guesstimation about maybe a handful, about 10 or so.
Right.
And that was a long time. And when I got here, I have to say we have made some improvements as well. We have hired so many females also. Right now, I think our numbers are 48, 47. It used to be, probably back in the days, used to be an agency about 50 or so, probably in 2016. And it was probably maybe 10 to 15 females. Uh-huh. So we are promoting more females, getting more females in the ranks, and predominantly, people of color as well. Very unheard of profit.
Say that again, please.
I said very unheard of for non-profit.
Yes, very. And so my next question was, how do you recruit? How do you attract people of color into your organization?
A lot of it comes from word of mouth, believe it or not. We go out there and like you said earlier in your first question, one of your second questions, I think it was, everybody's looking for that high paying job, and we're comparable. Our youth specialists, which is basically our direct line staff, right now they're getting paid $18 an hour. I think if you were to look up other agencies, they're probably paying around 15 or so an hour. So we're a little bit more ahead of those. We try our best. We're intentional when we hire in regards to someone that looks like our kids. I don't know if you've ever been, I'm sure you've been to schools where your teacher doesn't look like you. Here we want them to be their mentors as well. So it's kind of like, I can relate to you. I'm from the same neighborhood as you. I may have known you maybe if it was a few years later. So just basically connecting with them. And word of mouth really just gets people going in here. I came here through word of mouth as well. So, that's our seems to be our way of getting our recruit and our staff here.
How do you stay motivated on those very difficult days with those very difficult children and sometimes those very difficult parents?
How do I stay motivated? Ultimately, you want these young men to be successful. You want to give them an opportunity. And I guess for me, I've had back in my, post-college years, some rough times. So therefore it's kind of like, someone took a chance on me and look where I am today. So just keeping focused, like, listen, they may just need a break, a chance, an opportunity. And I think that's keep us focused. And I don't take anything personal. Once you start taking things personal, that's when your attitude changes. So we keep that, just kind of listen. They're upset. These kids have been done wronged by the system. They have been betrayed. They have been backstabbed. So they're looking for someone. They're going to lash out sometimes. And you have to remind them, like, listen, what they're saying and what they're doing is it's not against me. It's just they're frustrated, and you have to train and you have to remember that. We do go through a series of trainings here, one called SCM, which is Safe Crisis Management, and another one we did with Fordham University, which was Trauma Informed. And we all have trauma. If you could walk down the street, somebody has trauma from somewhere. Either they have dealt with it or not. They have some type of trauma. And these young men have been traumatized. Some of them have been removed by force from their families. Some have been locked up. So therefore, they have to deal with that. And as a 14 to 21-year-old, you don't have the skill sets to be able to handle that. So we are there to support them. And the staff knows, don't take this personally. One of the things we say during orientation is kind of like, listen, we're not asking you guys to go out there and lay down bricks and put up buildings. Like, this is a mental job. So please understand, these kids are probably going to someday curse you out, tell you about your mother, your father, your sister, and your brother. And you have to remember, like, listen, they're just hurting and they don't know any better. If you don't take it personally and just come back the next day and just be like, listen, I'm here for you, it's going to take some time, but you'll see them change. You'll see them change. And when you see that, and you can say that's the aha moment for them, you're like, we're making progress.
Yeah. It's huge when they realize they can trust you, and you might be the only one they've ever given that much to. You talked about trauma, and one of the things my coworkers and I used to talk about a lot was the fact that PTSD, that post-traumatic stress disorder or syndrome, is in our children. It's in these communities of color, but we never talk about that. When we think of PTSD, we think about veterans coming back from war. But in these communities, there is war, or a lot of aspects of it. My question is, that's just a foundational statement. If you could change one piece of legislation, either change something that's existing or enact a new one, like it's all you're writing it, legislator Pearce, what would it be in terms of dealing with the juvenile justice system and these kind of families that you work with?
Oh, that's a very good question, a loaded question too. I would say more funding. And the reason for more funding is, for example, mental health is real, and having to deal with mental health and then giving the families an opportunity. I would definitely had some more money towards social workers. The reason for that is because it's not just the youth, it's the families, and then the families with the siblings. We have another department that we have here, which is the managed care, that we may go into a family from one of the youth and say, okay, let's take a look at this family. And then we find out that, wait, your sibling has this issue too, and this issue, and this is the future. This is a pipeline, so to speak, right? So basically putting those resources from the beginning might help change that, for them to be able to actually be successful and maybe stop the cycle, so to speak, right? So therefore, I would say putting some money into definitely mental health, for sure, just because that needs to be addressed, and not making it so taboo, because we have many of our people of color who believe it's very taboo to do about it. I'm from a Spanish culture, like, you going to a therapist? Or what's wrong with you? And it's very taboo issue. And I think we need to break that stigma. So that we can have them go there, from early on, to deal with those issues and be able to address those issues, because that is also part of the root problem. They don't know how to cope with certain things. So what do? They turn into violence, they turn into gangs, they turn into other things, and that becomes a cycle. So let's not address a symptom, let's address the root of the problem, So just putting those things in place for them. But I'm sure there'll be a whole other list that I can come up with, but that's the first one that comes to mind.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. I always say, every time we're having a family reunion, I'm like, who wants to just have a, psychiatrist on hand, just in case anyone wants to talk? No one ever takes me on. But I think it's a good idea, like, we have trauma. We all, as you mentioned, and we need to address it. Right. It will get addressed, whether it's proactively or reactively. And so it's better if we get ahead of it. Let me just thank everybody once again for joining me today for Miracle Mondays with Rae Lashea. I'm your host, Rae Lashea. I'm here with Carlos Pearce, also known as Scorpio 011. So you can follow him here on Instagram. Also follow me here at Rae Lashea. Every Monday, I'm here with a spectacular guest, usually an entrepreneur or somebody of an uncommon field. And you can also check out my website at www.lessproblemsmoremiracles.com. Put your email address in to get the free PDF Miracle Makers Roadmap, as well as check out the books that I have there that I've written and are available for your purchase. Back to the conversation at hand.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to a young man, in his teens who is teetering between the good and the bad, the right and the wrong, the legal and the illegal, just having those difficulties that all of us have to navigate, but is sort of peering down that darker path and it's looking good?
Well, always is going to look good, that darker path, because it's probably something fast and easy. Easy come, easy goes. And my advice to them would be like, just take the time, because right now you're feeling this kind of high for it to get this quick, gratification. But remember that you're now maybe between the ages of 14 to 21. You still have your whole life ahead of you, and one mistake here can change that forever. You could end up being on the good side or on the bad side, and you don't want to end up on that. I know it may feel good, and maybe some of your friends may have gotten caught up in that lifestyle and maybe gotten away with it. And the best advice I can give is it could change your life. One of the things that we also have is called Motivational Mondays, which right now is happening as we speak, where we bring former gang members, former people who have been in jail, and also people in the community to give these boys, saying, listen, I was in your shoes 20, 30 years ago, maybe a few years ago. I think 2 weeks ago, we had a member of the Bloods in there as well, just giving them like, listen, it's not about this, because now, I have to change my life. I have a young daughter, I got to take care of her, and the gang life is not going to support that, so he was able to connect with them and give him what he's going through right now. So just basically, it's not always what you see at first, for the first, that feeling that immediate gratification, but also understanding that it has ramifications for your future. And I think the best that they can do is to seek someone, that may not be the cool person, because it's never is, and try to connect with them. But just remember that your choices have consequences. They may not see it right on the spot. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but they may have consequences down the road. Another speaker we had a couple of weeks ago, was saying basically, I got away with so many things until, he was a scammer. He was into robbing people just for fun, until one day he got caught, and he got caught with a loaded gun, and he had to do some time for that. So he's just saying, listen, I got away for a while, but it catches up to you at some point. So just remember that, everything has a consequence down the road. So, and our goal, like I said, earlier, is to save these lives.
Yeah, you're saving lives. I love that. Choices have consequences. Good choices have consequences. Bad choices have consequences. And you never know when that consequence will hit, but
it comes knocking at some point.
Right. I always say, you pay now or you pay later, but you will pay.
That's right. Sometimes with it.
Oh my God. So the last question I want to ask about your organization, you said that it is funded by ACS, and sometimes you get loans and funding. Can people make donations, or is it just?
Absolutely. We always can take donations. If you go on our website, which is www.mdpyfs.org, you can go ahead and there's a donate button. You can give whatever you can. Every little bit helps. From $5, $5,000, every bit helps. So if anybody wants to help, by all means, this goes right to the kids as well. For example, as Christmas times, we get them gifts, we buy them stuff. And not only that, we also adopt families. So this year we're adopting 4 families, to kind of help them out, because what? COVID is still around, and we have to make sure that we take care of them, because there's a lot going on. And we always want to give back. And that's one thing that we definitely do. And you can always donate.
Give us that website one more time.
One more time, yes, it's www.mdpyfs.org.
Wonderful. Donate. Thanksgiving is coming up. Christmas is coming up. Winter is coming up. And those things are harsher than usual, especially now with COVID, and in New York, because a lot of people, if you're living in Florida or Arizona, you might not realize how terrible the winters can be for homeless youth or families without heat, and the whole host of things that a lot of us take for granted in life.
Right.
Carlos, oh my gosh, I am so happy and thrilled that you joined me today.
I know it's
Thank
been
you
a long
so
time.
much. I know. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Oh, and wow, you're doing some great work. I appreciate you and all of the social workers and clinical workers and therapists and
Program.
teachers out there who are saving lives.
Thank you for having us as well, for having me as well.
Thank you. So until next week, everybody, thank you for joining me and have a miraculous day. Bye.
Bye bye. Take care.